Well, I wanted to talk to you guys about what was happening in week 3, but it looks like there's no week 3 for Act 3. It really did just end last week, unceremoniously. The final week, there's no hidden thing that came out. There's no final conversation with Eris or Sloane or the Drifter. There's no epilogue, as far as I can tell, that's in the story. It just ended last week, and they just ran into steam. It's week 3, week 11 for the episode, the season, whatever, and there's nothing to talk about other than the obvious stuff that's happened in the last couple days. So we'll give our thoughts on Marathon, we'll give our thoughts on the episodes as a whole, we'll give our thoughts on what we want to see for the future as far as like story, and we'll talk a little bit about Marathon. I don't know how much we'll be talking about it, just because I'm genuinely not even not interested at all in terms of talking about Marathon. But if you care about certain things as far as like time steps for the episodes, you know, our thoughts on the episodes, our thoughts on the story, our thoughts about what's happening for the reveal for what's happening in the next expansion, or if you just want to hear my thoughts on Marathon, just those timestamps are going to be down below in the comment description. We're probably going to have a little bit of gameplay footage playing in the background, but we're mostly going to be talking right now. First things first, the episode is over, technically. There is no epilogue or final conversation we were expecting for week 3, because everyone last week was like, oh, don't worry, if this is how week 2 ends, there's still week 3, there's still something happening in week 3, don't worry, it's not just going to end. No, it actually just ended. There was no grand sign-off, there was no grand conclusion for the Hive storyline, and that's what these episodes were basically sort of sold to us as, is that these episodes are going to be wrapping up certain narrative threads in the Destiny campaigns. The first episode was about the Vex, the second episode was about the Scorn, and then the third episode was supposed to be about the Hive. I mean, Heresy by far was the one that people were expecting to cook the most, and it was already lackluster to start with because dialogue for some of the key actors was just flat out missing. I'm not even sure why they couldn't get somebody even temporarily just to voice it. They didn't even have to go all out and just voice it well, but the fact that I had to like waste my own time to read the dialogue on screen, like really important stuff that's being spouted to me in the middle of gameplay, and sometimes I couldn't even do that because I was having to defend myself, and I'd have to like go back and rewatch it or have somebody else explain to me the lore that was happening on screen, because yeah, I couldn't read what was happening on screen and play the game at the same time. That's kind of why you need dialogue options. Gladly they did enable subtitles for those who hadn't had it on initially, but I mean, again, some people, I'm assuming, had missed most of the narrative content with this episode just because we didn't have the voice actors here. And I get it, it's SAG-AFTRA strike. They said that stuff at the very beginning of the episode, saying like, hey, dialogue options will be missing, don't worry, we'll put in subtitles. But I always assumed they would fix it before the season was over, that they would add all that dialogue options back and by the time the season was over, so that if you were playing on alt characters who hadn't started the season yet, you can go back and play through it the whole season and, you know, just experience it all with the actual dialogue options. No, that is not a thing that's going to happen. They are not going to fill us in with that dialogue. They're not going to pay the actors to voice the seasonal stuff only because the season's going to end soon. It's not going to be a permanent thing inside the game. There's no point. Fine. But that being said, the whole episode was sold to us as like a shakeup of like the Hive Pantheon. They were supposed to be a giant little how do we explain it? They said that this was supposed to be some sort of massive shakeup for the Hive Pantheon, that the things were going to change for the Hive for the better or for the worse. In retrospect, barely anything changed. Oryx came back, one of the best villains in the entire Destiny franchise came back briefly, only for us to unceremoniously kill him off again. Savathun and Xivu Arath are still at each other's throats, although Savathun more or less hates us now for killing Oryx a second time. She was trying to save him, trying to get them all to go back to Fundament, just to abandon all this sword logic nonsense and just be a family again. Xivu Arath wanted Oryx to pick up the sword again and wanted him to come back to life in full form and, you know, fight and start the whole Hive War all over again. This version of Oryx that we got was a version that had just become the Taken King and was kind of disappointed in both his sisters and about his own legacy, because he didn't even understand why he was doing the things that he was doing. And I found that was very interesting. There's a big gap in Oryx's history that from the time he becomes the Taken King to the time we actually see him in the Taken King DLC in Destiny 1, there are things that he's done that he isn't entirely sure why he would do. He's like, I don't know why I would betray my own sword logic. Why would I go against my own values? Why would I do all these things in service of what he believes is sentimental weakness? And we're never going to get that now. He's dead again. He's gone. The Echo's destroyed. This Echo is the only Echo that's fully, completely destroyed. We'll talk about the other 2 episodes here in a little bit, but it just feels weird that the best episode in terms of story ends in the most disappointing way possible, where Oryx doesn't come back to life. They had that really cool cinematic where, you see the Echo entering Oryx's giant dead body, and that there is no payoff for that. That's not a thing that's going to happen. We, as the Vanguard, still have Oryx's actual giant dead body from the end of the King's Fall raid, from Ghosts of the Deep. That his actual dead body is still locked away somewhere in the city, in some sort of deep underground vault. I thought we were going to get some sort of payoff where Xivu, Arath, and Savathun were going to discover his body. They were going to steal his body away. They were going to take the Echo and put that Echo inside Oryx's giant dead body and fully, completely resurrect Oryx. No, that was never going to happen, apparently. I thought that's what everything was leading up to. I thought that's what, like, the Season of the Deep and, like, the, Ghosts of the Deep dungeon was about. And them trying to resurrect Oryx, they're trying to bring him back to life then, they're trying to do it again now, and I thought that we were going to get truly desperate, and he was going to allow himself to be captured by one of them, and then they were going to put his Echo inside the giant dead body, and then, no, that just never happened, and I was just like, oh my god, it was right there! All that perfect story setup was right there, and they did not even bother with it. And I am just like, why? Like, they have such great narrative things that they set up in the background, and they don't pay off on any of it for some reason. I don't know why they even bother setting it up to start with. It just, I mean, I don't know if Oryx is ever going to come back. I think this is, like, the only other time he might have been able to come back, but no, he's, like, for sure gone now. And we're never going to get that gap in his history as far as, like, what could have possibly happened that would make him, like, go against everything he believed in order to, like, avenge his family, to resurrect his sisters, to abandon his sword logic for revenge against us for killing Crota. I mean, we're never going to get any of that information, at least not for the foreseeable future. Episode Heresy is supposed to wrap up whatever loose threads we had for the Hive Pantheon or whatever. Eris got a throne world, cool, I guess. Yeah, I mean, she doesn't really change all that much. We get to see her face now that she has the shroud removed from her face, but, like, I was expecting her to be resurrected in a completely different look. Maybe have her look back, like, human-wise right before she was, stuck in that Hellmouth area. Maybe she, resurrects in, like, in her actual human form, and that could have been a big reveal or whatever, but no, we didn't get any of that. Drifter abandoned the Vanguard cause the second she was dead, and the second she comes back, he picks up the sword again and fights for us again. There's no consequences for him just running away, briefly, mind you, but running away because his girlfriend died. He's, like, they do talk about it if you play the Nether activity as far as, like, him leaving. He's ashamed of it, but there's no, like, major follow-through with that. He doesn't suffer any consequences for basically abandoning his post and just giving up, more or less. Sloane, her whole connection to the Taken or whatever, there's no real payoff or follow-through for that either. She's still half taken or whatever. She doesn't get fully taken. She doesn't get that Taken essence purged from her. Now that we as the Guardian have full mastery of the Taken energies and powers, like that, there's no follow-through for that. Savathun and Xivu Arath still hate each other. We didn't even see Savathun's face. We saw her briefly in this cinematic they showed off in Act 2 or whatever, but, like, she herself doesn't show up in person to fight us to defend Oryx. Not even Savathun was willing to do that either. She sends clones. Xivu Arath sends her best warrior that we've beaten several times already. So I'm just like, they were trying hard to rescue Oryx. They didn't really try that hard. If they were really serious about, stopping us from destroying the Echo, the both of them would have shown up in person to fight us. But we are so god unbelievably powerful that they were like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. So I was just disappointed with that too. I don't know. I thought they were setting up better things for this storyline, and I'm just left disappointed. And now that we're talking about, Heresy, let's talk about the episodes as a whole. And these episodes have been one misfire after misfire after misfire for different reasons altogether. Episode Echoes was just awful because it had to deal with like the Vex and then Maya, and then like unless you were keeping up with the story that was happening with like what is it even called, like Breach Protocol or whatever back on Neomuna, you didn't even really know who this chick was, the main villain, the conductor. You had to be keeping up with like those archival weekly missions from the time Lightfall came out to like this episode release to even understand her motivations, understand who she is. They kind of briefly explain in the episode as far as like what she's about, but even then, she's not a compelling villain. The Vex have never been a compelling villain. They're mindless automatons bent on, serving whatever needs that they believe will let them be the last one standing at the end of time. And I'm just like, they should be way more compelling than that. They should be more along the lines of like Skynet, very terrifying entities, but the Vex have always been kind of like whatever. They definitely needed a figurehead of some sort to like be more threatening and more imposing in the future, and I think that's what the whole episode was coming down to, which was giving them some sort of figurehead to rally behind, which I guess Maya, she keeps the Echo of Command, the big old collar thing, and she's basically the new figurehead for the Vex, but I'm just like, nobody cares because she's also just lame. No, it's like there's no satisfying conclusion there. There was a little bit of interesting stuff happening between Saint 14 and Osiris, as far as Saint 14 being from a parallel universe and not the original Saint 14, like the one that we actually find in the Infinite Forest. That was a little bit compelling. I would have liked a little bit more of their personal story being brought more forward. But I think this season being talking with them with the Vex in the background was kind of taking away from stuff like that. We're supposed to care about both storylines. I feel like we should have fleshed them out one or the other. The Vex don't really change all that much, honestly. They get a figurehead, sure, but it's kind of boring. She's kind of whatever, if I'm being honest. I don't see her as an imposing villain. I think they need to start treating the Vex more scary as far as, like, not just, like, fodder enemies, but, like, they've had some things here and there that have made them a little interesting, but for the most part, the Vex have been very much underutilized. They're not really all that imposing anymore. When you hear about a season of the Vex, you're just like rolling your eyes because you're like, oh my god, the Vex again. They won't stay away. And I'm just like, you think we've wiped the floor with them every single time they've shown up. They just don't have anything that's worth any juice anymore. And now that they have Maya with the Echo of Command, she's going to slowly change the Vex over time. I'm hoping she'll make them a scarier threat. I think her whole character design and that voice actress needs a big old break. Everyone just associates that with like Lakshmi from the Future War Cult, and they already hate that chick to begin with. They don't hate her because she's a compelling villain. They just hate her because she's obnoxious and annoying. So like, yeah, we need to be done with her. From episode Echoes, that was just it just fell flat on its face. Nobody cared about episode Echoes. And then we go to Revenant, which was supposed to be a little bit of an uptick because it was supposed to be the vampire, Castlevania, Dark Souls, Bloodborne type of season. That season, again, kind of was a little bit of an obnoxious kind of episode 2 because the whole tonic system thing was just so annoying. We had to keep using tonics. They got rid of crafting weapons. We had to basically go back to RNG weapons again. I have all these stupid deep sight resonances I can't even spend them on unless I want to go do raids and start doing raids again. And I'm like, oh god, I don't even want to do that anymore. I don't want to go back to Vault of Glass. I don't want to go back to to Garden of Salvation. You guys are crazy. I do not want to do that ever again. Not even for the crafted weapons. I'm just like, I'm so sick and tired of doing those stupid raids already. It was supposed to be about, like, Uldren putting to bed the whole thing with Fickrel. I thought he was going to try to save him, try to purge, the darkness from him, and try to, like, save, like, a fallen son or whatever. It definitely wasn't that. This, you know, the what's it called? The Revenant Barons, or not? What are they called? The Revenant Scorn are a little bit more of a twisted version of the Scorn, where they can self-revive. They're a little bit kind of like vampires. I was hoping that the Scorn would become a little bit more of an imposing villains, where they could like enter the Ascendant Plane. They have their own weird Ascendant Plane called like the Revenant Plane or something. It just feels like they were kind of, the tonic system didn't work initially. We did get that cool dungeon with Vesper's host, but again, that was also bugged out too. Just things about this season just made it so that it was so lackluster, unfortunately. We got the return of Skolas, but he's only like a one-time boss in like Prison of Elders, and only if you do like the special version of it, which is like the harder, like the challenge of the Elders or something like that. I didn't even bother with it because I was like, I don't care to do Challenge of the Elders. I'm just so bored of it. We were doing Prison of Elders for weeks and weeks on end before we got that eventual Challenge of the Elders thing with Skolas. I thought it was really cool that they brought him back. I thought he was going to be the new figurehead of the Scorn after Fickrul had been, you know, dealt with or whatever. But no, Fickrul's dead. Uldren helps us kill Fickrul. Mithrax being poisoned by that Nezarec, you know, tea thing he made for Osiris way back when. That could have been compelling. Maybe if Mithrax, you know, became corrupted and he became the new Scorn Baron even against his will, that would have been an interesting twist. But no, that doesn't happen either. Aramis becomes the one who retrieves the what is it called? The Echo of Reese. I am so sick of Eris too. Or I mean Aramis as well. She just comes in. She's a main villain that's hurt the Vanguard and humanity in such bad ways. We lost, you know, Rasputin because of her. She sided against us, and you know, what's it called? Beyond Light. She's just always been a pain in our ass. We don't even get to take her down completely. And she doesn't even like completely come back to us and become like a new ally, like a tentative ally, like, kind of like Heidel does. She just like takes the Echo and leaves. And I thought Mithrax was gonna get a good payoff too. He was gonna get cleansed of the corruption from Nezarec. He was gonna become the new Kell of the House of Light, and he was gonna receive that Echo, like an actual like paracausal artifact that actually gave him like light-based abilities, and that like he would become like one of the very first new, you know, fallen guardians or whatever, like, you know, the Elixni guardians. No, Aramis takes the Echoes and she leaves, and just, it's so lackluster. I was hoping for such a big payoff for for Mithrax, and he didn't get anything. None of his hard work, his dedication to us, it's not paid off. The status quo doesn't change. He's better now, I guess, but, you know, Uldren and Crow, they don't really grow. Nothing really happens that makes him question or even reaffirm what he's doing is the right thing. He just, like, it's over. It's like, all right, whatever, I don't really care anymore. Fickrul and Skolas coming back briefly, only to have them both be killed off in side activities. And the Scorn are kind of just like whatever again. It's just like there's no satisfying payoff there. I was hoping for the Scorn to completely either be completely wiped away. Forsaken's not even a thing in this game anymore. Just have them be completely wiped away. No Scorn anymore. The Scorn without their barons, without Fickrul to keep making new Scorn. The Scorn can't keep making themselves anymore. They don't have a figurehead either. They're leaderless. They don't have any way of like resurrecting or making more Scorn in the future because there's nobody like Fickrul or Skolas to do that, and it just ends for them. They're gonna slowly be wiped out and go extinct, and it just seems a little lackluster there too. So all these episodes in one way or another have just been giant misses, and like the story doesn't pay off in ways that I, as a Destiny fan and as a lore junkie, and as someone who understands basic storytelling, like there's no satisfying payoffs here, and that's what is the most frustrating thing, unfortunately. Now that we're done with that, they did release and reveal the new expansion name, codename Apollo. It's going to be called like the Edge of Fate or something like that. It has something to do with the 9. The story for them has been happening. They're really dense lore, like deep cuts for the Destiny universe, and they've been doing a lot of stuff in the background in like the lore books, but I mean, there's no real setup for them in the actual game unless you're watching lore videos with like Bife or whatever. And so if you're a casual player, you're going to be like, who the hell are the Nine? Who are these people? They're the people from the Prophecy Dungeon. They're the people from, what is it called? Dares of Eternity. They're the ones who control Thre, who comes by week to week selling us weapons. They're the ones who are going to be doing the weird dungeon rotation thing at the other half of this episode, which, again, I don't know if that's going to set up a lot of lore or set up them as the next antagonists for the next expansion. I don't know. I'm keeping my expectations extremely low. I don't know how you make something as lore dense and heavy as the Nine become the main protagonist, or the main antagonist, or the main focus of the next expansion without having to give us a buttload of exposition in like the dungeon rotation thing, explaining to us in extreme detail who they are, why we should care, and why they're setting up as like a threat, or why we have to go investigate them as the Guardians. So I don't know anything about that. I'm not expecting anything great. These expansions are supposed to be much smaller, Rise of Iron size, not the final shape size. So if you're expecting a lot of content, I wouldn't. I do expect Bungie not to charge me nearly as much, if that's a thing. I don't know if they're going to charge me exactly what they charged me for the final shape. They better not, because they themselves have told us that this content in question is going to be very small. Do not expect a lot. Do not expect, a massive story on the scale of the final shape. Expect something more along the lines of like Shadowkeep, Rise of Iron. Something that tells a real small story and that'll just open the door up for other things in the future. All right. The very last thing we got to talk about too is marathon reveal stuff. So we were finally shown it's by the time this comes out, it's probably been about a week since we were shown the marathon reveal stuff. We were shown a developer live stream. We were just shown off, gameplay footage, gameplay trailers. We were shown off a cinematic of some sort. All the ARGs and stuff like that were leading up to the gameplay reveals were pretty cool. I didn't experience those myself. I didn't really care for Marathon. We'll get to that too here in a second. And they finally showed it off. They showed off, a developer live stream of a lot of popular YouTubers coming through and playing, and being part of that whole, what is it called, like the player engagement or like player summit of people, being part of that like private play testing for the game. And between then and now, I have watched so many different types of YouTubers covering this game. I've seen Hidden Xperia, I've seen Paul Tassi, I've seen Dado, I've seen Astacross, I've seen Angry Joe, I've seen too many people, and they're all circling and saying more or less the same thing, but they're saying it in different ways for whatever reason, to not hurt Bungie's feelings or to give them the benefit of the doubt. The biggest and most concise things that they're talking about is that the best thing about this game is not even the gameplay. The gameplay is average, and for average from Bungie, that means it's bad. It is just an extraction shooter. It is just another extraction shooter that is coming really late into the game and that nobody asked for. Me, as a Destiny player, the only thing I can think of is why were resources diverted from Destiny for this game? Because it doesn't look like anything special. It doesn't look or play like anything special. You can even watch the gameplay footage and trailers and just see some of the similar animations, reload animations, melee animations, run animations that are the exact same thing that are in Destiny right now. And it looks like they just copied and pasted a lot of this stuff. And my question is, why does this game need to be a thing? Why does it have to be an extraction shooter? Why did we have to get an extraction shooter? And me, as a person who only plays PvP mostly in other games, not so much in Destiny anymore, why? I just don't understand the rationale. There's somebody in the C-suite at Bungie that was just so dead set on making an extraction shooter for some reason, that he was just like, no, keep going. I don't care if people don't like it. The comment sections and the like to dislike ratio for their videos says it all. Like, people just are like, why the hell did you guys make this? There's nothing special about this. There's no hook. There's no thing that makes me be like, hell yeah, I have to play this. I can't get this experience anywhere else. There are other better extraction shooters out there right now that are free to play, that offer more right now than this extraction shooter is going to offer at launch. Bungie have said that more or less themselves, saying that this extraction shooter, when it eventually does come out, that they're going to be building the story. The story's not even written yet, by the way. They're still working on they have like an idea, like a skeleton of the story that they're going to tell, but they just don't know exactly how they're going to tell it. They said that they're going to work with the community to figure out the best way to tell the story, and I'm just like, oh my god, like why would you admit that to the community and be like, yeah, we're going to figure out how to tell you the story later? I'm like, oh boy, that is not a good look for people who want to know more about the story. There's no single player component to this. It is a multiplayer only game. The story you're going to get is going to be coming from matches that you play against other players, unfortunately, which again is just insane. You're banking on the story being told in a way where like the other players won't mess with people who are just trying to get some of the lore information for the story. Like, it's such a stupid idea. I don't know why they're doing this. Nothing about the gameplay they showed off looks compelling enough, or there's no hook as far as I can tell as far as why I should play this game. I just keep circling back to this thing where I don't know why people in the various different YouTube videos are all very like, they're very forgiving to Bungie for some reason. The fact that it looks so mid is the best way to describe it. It just looks okay. It doesn't look like anything special, but everybody's so forgiving to Bungie, being like, don't worry, it'll get better as time goes on. Like, dude, why do we have to give them the benefit of the doubt? Why do I have to give them more of my time and more of my money to maybe make the game worthwhile? It doesn't make any sense. It's an absolute insane idea. Anyone who's been playing from the initial Destiny onset knows that Bungie is capable of greatness, but they also are the ones who get in their way the most. I have no idea why they do this. I don't know why people are so forgiving. It has been 10 years with Destiny, and they're about to start another game that they're wanting to make for the next 10 years. No, you don't get leeway with the consumers who have never heard of you, who are going to come on with you for the very first time and be exposed to your nonsense and be like, oh man, this company doesn't really have their stuff together. Destiny players for sure are not going to give you that leeway either. I don't know why the various different YouTubers I saw are all like, please just be patient with Bungie. I'm like, what are you talking about? Why would we be patient with them for anything about this game? Nobody who plays Destiny ever wanted this game, and anyone who plays extraction shooters is not going to jump ship for this extraction shooter. There's nothing special about it. There's no reason to play it. Absolutely none. I don't want Destiny to fail, but I don't give a shit if Bungie's the one in charge of it anymore. Bungie has proven that they're probably their own worst enemies when it comes to the livelihood of their own games. I don't understand why all the cost-cutting measures, the studio layoffs, the delays, all the funding we've been putting into this game got put into this game, and after all this time and all this money and all these people's livelihoods ruined, that this is the best the game can look at the reveal. Man, dude, I'm shocked that this is the best they could offer with all of this stuff being pulled into that game, for sure. The only thing that people seem to maybe kind of like about the game, because the gameplay sucks, it just looks okay. The only thing that people maybe seemingly think is alright about the game is the art direction. But other people are also saying like, yo, this art direction ain't it, Chief. It doesn't... When Bungie went from Halo to Destiny, the art direction was very compelling. It was very something different. And Marathon, going from Destiny to Marathon, I mean, it looks different, but not different in a good way. Everything looks bad, almost like people keep comparing it to Concord, and I don't want to do that too, but it kind of looks like that. Like, the guys don't really... The art direction doesn't really speak to me. It looks just like whatever. And I'm just like, it looks ugly on purpose so they can sell you skins for these characters. But unlike in Marvel Rivals, like another game I'm just going to keep bringing up, where you can actually see your character models, if you do buy skins for these characters, since it's all in first person, you're never going to get a chance to appreciate it. What's it called? Unlike Marathon, Destiny is a fashion game. People out in the wild will appreciate your fashion. Something like an extraction shooter like Marathon, no one's going to care what you look like. They just want to kill you, take your loot, and just keep going. They're not going to appreciate, like, oh, look at him. He looks pretty cool. No, they're not going to care. In Destiny, again, Destiny's a first-person shooter. You don't really get to see your character model all that often either, unless you're holding a sword or a relic or you're in the tower or something. But people will appreciate you. They'll give you a thumbs up and be like, hey, yo, dude, your drip is sick. I like that. That's real cool. I don't see that happening for Marathon. The art direction just looks awful on purpose in order to sell you skins in the cosmetic stores. It's also not free to play. People are also like, yo, they're asking you for a... I don't know why people are also thinking that they're not asking for $40. I was under the impression from everything I've seen so far that they are asking for at least $40 for this game. It's a Sony property. They try to do the same thing with Concord. They're going to try to do the same thing with Marathon. So it's going to be $40 to start, plus whatever $20 battle pass they're offering, plus whatever skins they're going to offer in the cash shop. But I don't... Why? Why would I play this game? There's no reason to play it. I'm not looking for it to fail on purpose, to hurt Bungie on purpose, but I just don't care if it succeeds. No one cares. I don't care if Bungie survives their own stupidity. I just want Destiny to survive. I don't care if Bungie is the one in charge of Destiny by the time it's all said and done. I just want to get my opinion out there, let you guys know that I do not believe Marathon's going to succeed. It feels like a game that people will boot up, play for maybe a few hours, they'll be like, whatever, and then turn it off and never touch it again. It's just not going to be for them. This is not for Destiny players. They've explicitly said this is not for Destiny players. This is for people who have never heard of Bungie before, who want to try an extraction shooter for the first time. Sure, I guess. I don't know why people would trust Bungie with a PvPvE game mode when that game mode already exists on a very smaller scale inside of Bungie, and that is called Gambit. And Gambit has more or less been abandoned since its inception, has gotten very minimal updates, and now Bungie is telling you, as a Destiny player, to, hey, come try out Marathon. I'm like, no, I already have Marathon on a smaller scale inside of Destiny. It's called Gambit, and you guys don't care about this game mode. You guys let it just fester and rot away. I'm still waiting for the day they just finally announce they're going to remove Gambit from the game because it's not worth keeping anymore. And now they want me to go play Marathon, and you want me to give you $40 for this game? No thanks. It's not going to happen, Chief. Anyways, guys, those are my thoughts. That's all I got left for you guys. I don't want it to sound super negative, but I mean, Bungie lately has just been swinging and missing, and I don't know what's causing them to do that. It seems like they're their own worst enemy. They're setting up cool narrative points in Destiny that they're not fulfilling for whatever reason. They finally showed off Marathon, and it just came out with like a slow clap and be like, oh, sure, I guess you got a lot of work left. And they have to release it this year, because if they don't, I think their Sony overlords are going to get really angry with them, so they have to send it out. We're going to get this video on file for, posterity's sakes at least. If you guys enjoyed, our little talking points here, be sure to leave a like down below. If you think I'm wrong, leave a comment and tell me how wrong I am. I'm pretty sure we've seen this play out before once or twice in the past, and I don't think I'm wrong. I would like to think that I know exactly what I'm talking about here, but, hey, I could be wrong. Maybe it'll be a smash hit. Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. Maybe. It could. There's a maybe. Anything's possible, right? In the infinite universe, anything's possible. Marathon could come out and it could absolutely smash everything. Me as a Destiny player, I would stop playing Destiny and go play Marathon. I don't think that's going to happen, but, maybe. We'll catch you guys on the next one.